All right. Welcome to One Network Port Harcourt Center, reaching from Megaband FM 97.3, Megaband 97.3 FM. The program is Newspaper Review. Today is 5th of August 2022. Many things happening at the federal, at the state, local government levels. All kinds of stories are breaking here and there. Weather report in Port Harcourt, it's still a sunny day. There's been 3 consecutive days of sunshine. If it persists to today is 5th of August. Newspaper Review is the program. My name is Didi West, and we begin, of course, with today in history. What has happened? What are the things that have happened over the years on August 5? Well, we go back all the way to AD. We go all the way back to the ADs. AD 70. AD 70, and it is fires resulting from the destruction of the second temple in Jerusalem are extinguished. That is the first one we are taking there. And then we have 1735. Freedom of press, of the press, okay? In Nigeria, this has become a major issue, government after government, particularly during this dispensation. And we have freedom of the press, 1735. New York Weekly Journal writer John Peter Zenger is acquitted of seditious libel against the royal governor of New York on the basis that what he had published was true. 1735, freedom of the press. New York Weekly Journal writer John Peter Zenger is acquitted of seditious libel against the royal governor of New York on the basis that what he had published was true. Well, we move over to 1816. 1816 on August 5, and we have the British Admiralty dismisses Francis Ronald's new invention of the first working electric telegraph as wholly unnecessary, preferring to continue using this semaphone. History has it that it wasn't long afterwards that they returned to the electric telegraph. But in 1816, the British Admiralty dismissed Francis Ronald's new invention of the first working electric telegraph as wholly unnecessary, preferring to continue using the semaphone, where that rejection did not last for too long. And we go over to 1824. Very important history dates we are taking. Greek War of Independence. Konstantinos Kanaris leads a Greek fleet to victory against Ottoman and Egyptian naval forces in the Battle of Samos. Now, this one was included because of the angle of Egypt there. As way back as 1824, Egypt was involved in a war over Greek's place in history. Well, August 5, 1824, Greek War of Independence. Konstantinos Kanaris leads a Greek fleet to victory against Ottoman and Egyptian naval forces in the Battle of Samos. That's 1824, August 5, and we go over to 1858. 1858, Cyrus Westfield and others complete the first transatlantic telegraph cable after several unsuccessful attempts. It would operate for less than a month. 1858, Cyrus Westfield and others complete the first transatlantic telegraphic cable after several unsuccessful attempts. It will operate for less than a month. This is connected, of course, to the fact that we are in the media and all the things that have happened in the past about the media. Well, we move over to 1861. 1861, August 5. American Civil War. In order to help pay for the war effort, the United States government levies the first income tax as part of the Revenue Act of 1861. 3% of all incomes over $800 rescinded, and it was rescinded in 1872, so just about 11 years after. 1861, during the American Civil War, in order to raise money for the war, the United States government levied the first income tax in that country as part of the revenue of 1861, and it meant that 3% of all incomes that were above $800 was given to government, and in 1872, 11 years later, that law was abrogated, rescinded. 1861, also in the United States of America, the Army abolishes flogging. 1861, the Army abolishes flogging. The Army abolished flogging in 1861 in the United States. So hitherto, it was all kinds of things were happening. So 1861 has two important historic facts about on August 5. United States of America abolished flogging 1861, August 5. And then you have 1882, Standard Oil Company of New Jersey, today known as ExxonMobil, is established officially. So today in 1882, Standard Oil Company, now known as ExxonMobil, was established officially. The company would later grow to become the holder of all Standard Oil companies and the entity at the center of the breakup of Standard Oil. Well, that's long history for ExxonMobil, and you know they also have strong operations here in Nigeria. We go over to 1914. Remember 1914? Well, that's the year that Nigeria amalgamation happened in Nigeria. But on August 5, in Cleveland, Ohio, the first electronic traffic light is installed. In 1914, in Cleveland, Ohio, United States of America, the first electric traffic light is installed. So much to do on with August 5. And we go over to 1926. Harry Houdini performs his first great feat, spending 91 minutes underwater in a sealed tank before escaping. In 1926, Harry Houdini performs his greatest feat, spending 91 minutes, that's 1 hour 31 seconds, underwater in a sealed tank before escaping. 1960, we are coming closer to home now. 1960, Burkina Faso, then known as Upper Volta, becomes independent from France. 1960, August 5, Burkina Faso, formerly known as Upper Volta, became independent from France. And we come to 1962, apartheid. Nelson Mandela is jailed on this date in 1962. The legendary Nelson Mandela of South Africa was jailed on this date in 1962, and he would remain in prison until 1990, when he became president, the first black elected president of the United States of America, and of South Africa, sorry, and of course you know that he spent just one term in government. Then we go over to 1963. During the Cold War, the United States, United Kingdom, and the Soviet Union signed the Partial Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. On this date in 1963, during the Cold War, the United States of America, the United Kingdom, and the Soviet signed the Partial Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. Well, that's how much it's loaded. It's really loaded today. Our take on today in history, it's quite loaded, and we are hoping that somebody out there has benefited from this, and we're going to bring you more and more on today in history as we go down each day of the working week. Well, that's how much we're taking on today. This will just take a very, very, very short break, and we'll return for newspaper review. Stay tuned. Yes, thank you for staying tuned to One Network Center Port Harcourt, One Network Port Harcourt Center, reaching you on megaband, also reaching you on megaband 97.3 FM. You can reach us in Port Harcourt, Aba, Owerri, Onitsha, Asaba, and most parts of South and Southeastern states of the country. It's newspaper review, and we begin this morning with The Punch. The Punch 5th of August 2022, World Bank commits $8.5 billion to Nigeria and falls the country's 6.7 trillion naira subsidy. World Bank commits 8.5 billion naira to Nigeria, falls 6.7 trillion subsidy. That story you'll find on page 19 of the newspaper. And we have right below that, we won't allow Lawan blocks Buhari's impeachment, says the senator. Find out who is saying this. We won't allow Lawan, that is the Senate president, block Buhari's impeachment. That tells you how serious this issue is. And you find that report on page 14 of the Punch this morning. And we have, yes, you could reach us on, you can make your comments midway into the program, about 10:30, we'll open the lines, and you open the telephone line, and the number to reach us on is 0901 748 4980. 0901 748 4980. One more time, 0901 748 4980. Yes, you can reach us when the line is open. Yes, but we return to the newspaper. FG to generate 160 billion from call and data tax. You know, with all the big back and forth, FG now says it's to generate 160 billion naira from call and data tax. That means it will be annually. And that story, details of that story, you'll find on page 20 of the newspaper. And then we have Tinubu Shetima, Babacha fighting that, biting the finger that fed him, says Shitu. Tinubu Shetima, Babacha biting the finger that fed him. That's what former Minister of Communication, Shitu, is saying. Find out details on page 7 of the newspaper. And we have Buhari Mons Emeritus Prof. Mabogunje and ex-IG Balogun dies. Buhari Mons Emeritus Professor Mabogunje, ex-IG police, that's police IG dies. We commiserate with their families. These are very these people held prominent positions. Professor Mabogunje is held in high esteem for his work in the development history of geography and such like in the country. We go over right below the masthead of the Punch, and we have Wike's camp condemns PDP's anti-South posture, seeks redress. Wike's camp condemns PDP's anti-South posture, seeks redress. You find details of that on page 2 of the newspaper, and we go down to look at some of the riders that come with that. PDP cannot have BOT party chairman others from the north, says Wike's loyalists. PDP cannot have BOT party chairman others from the north. Wike's loyalists are saying ours is a democratic party. We adhere to our constitution, says PDP spokesman. And Lamido backs Article Wike's reconciliation. Wike's men demand equity, justice. You can find more of this as you open to the page 2 of the Punch this morning. Right there below that one, we have the picture of the young man that was sentenced to death by hanging after the death of a job seeker, and there it says Akwa Ibom job seekers killer to die by hanging. And the report has it that shortly after the death sentence was handed down, he tried to escape. So you can see the pictures, two pictures where policemen and people from the officers of the correctional center tried to restrain him from escaping. The video is also has also gone viral. Well, you can see more of that report on page 11 of the newspaper. And right below that, we have this sad story. Just yesterday here, we were discussing the increasing rate of young people committing suicide. And here we have the report of a Kwara pupil hanging himself for failing an exam to go from SS1 to SS2. Very sad story. You can find details of that on page 5 of the Punch. Kwara pupil hangs self for failing exam. Page 5 of the Punch has it this morning. And we have Lagos policemen, sheriffs invade house, destroy 500 million naira property. Lagos policemen, sheriffs invade house, destroy 500 million naira property. You can find that on pages 4 and 5 of the Punch. There's the metro section of the Punch this morning. And concerning security, we have this report, this headline here: more states to procure AK-47 as insecurity worsens. More states to procure AK-47 as insecurity worsens. That story you'll find on page 2 of the Punch this morning. And we go over to the Guardian. The Guardian this morning opens with this one: stop night visits to judges' residences. Supreme Court Justice tells government officials. Stop night visits to judges' residences. Supreme Court Justice tells government officials. The details of that intriguing story you'll find on page 3 of the Guardian this morning. And right next to it, we have Edo disclaims widespread anti-prostitution campaign. The Edo State government has disclaimed widespread anti-prostitution campaign, saying that the campaign did not emanate from the government of Edo State. Details of that story you'll find in the metro pages of the Guardian, particularly page 29. And then right next to that, we have this headline: terrorists kill 3, abduct 13 in Katsina. The killings continue, the abductions continue. Terrorists kill 3, abduct 13 in Katsina. Details of that, sad one, you'll see on page 30. And right beside it, we have prioritizing 1.15 billion vehicle purchase for Niger Republic ahead of ASU shows insensitivity. CNPP orders tell Buhari. What would you say? I don't know how that decision was made, and some explanations have been given, but this one says prioritizing 1.5 billion naira vehicle purchase for Niger ahead of ASU shows insensitivity. CNPP orders tell Buhari. You find details of that story on page 7 of the newspaper. And right below that, we have Atiku breaks the ice, meets Wike in Abuja. Atiku, that's the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, is reported to have broken the ice and met with Wike in Abuja yesterday. We have interesting riders right below that headline. One, it says, both agree to set up panel of equal representation to thrash out pending issues. Atiku appoints Melaye Bwala as campaign spokespersons. Atiku appoints Melaye Bwala as campaign spokesman. Tinubu presents Lalong to Buhari as campaign DG, Keyamo as spokesman. Adamu, any member talking about Muslim ticket instead of campaigning is sabotaging APC. Adamu, any member talking about Muslim ticket instead of campaigning is sabotaging APC. We control heartland of Southwest. We'll win Lagos presidency, Ayu boasts. We control heartland of Southwest. We'll win Lagos presidency, Ayu boasts. Ayu boasts, that's a national chairman of the PDP. APC to conclude Northwest reconciliation before campaign. APC to conclude Northwest reconciliation before campaign. And the last rider there, Osun APC rules out negotiation with Aregbesol's faction. Osun APC rules out negotiation with Aregbesol's faction. Very, 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 very big stories there, beginning on page 6 of the Guardian and running to other pages. And right below that we have this picture story again, 3 pictures with the bold headline, State of Public Schools, Alumni Associations to the Rescue. State of Public Schools, Alumni Associations to the Rescue. Details of that you'll find on pages 4 and 5 of the newspaper. And we go to the bottom of the cover of the Guardian this morning, August 5, 2022. And we have car dealers importing drugs, NDLEA alleges. Car dealers importing drugs, NDLEA alleges. You find details of that on page 7 of the newspaper. FGR, this one is quite interesting. FG urges Google to stop IPOB from using platform. We have the picture of the Minister of Information, Alhaji Lai Mohammed. FG urges Google to stop IPOB from using platform. You find details of that intriguing story on page 28 of the newspaper. Perhaps you want to know why this is being said, and somebody may also be thinking whether the government has the right to say this to the Google. Well, find details of the report on page 28 of the newspaper. At this juncture, I want to remind you that you can reach us via telephone on 0901 748 4980. 0901 748 4980. Phone line is open and you can reach us. And we go over to The Nation this morning. The Nation opens with UK court adjourns hearing in Ekweremado's case till October 21. UK court adjourns hearing in Ekweremado's case till October 21. That story you find on page 28 of The Nation this morning. And we have terrorism has not affected food production. Wow, I'm shocked to hear that. Terrorism has not affected food production. Find out who is saying so and why. And they have the rider government, 3.6 million jobs created. In other words, food production has created 3.6 million jobs. Find out details, further details of what the government is intending here on page 30 of the Nation. And we have Kekemeke. Folarin remains Oyo APC choice for governor. Kekemeke. Folarin remains Oyo APC choice for governor. Details of the report you find on page 27, and still on page 27, Osun APC heads for tribunal over governorship poll. Osun APC heads for tribunal over governorship poll. Details of that you find on page 27 of the newspaper. And we go over just below the masthead of The Nation this morning, August 5, 2022. We had rough time with Kwara before Abdul Razak says Ubek. We had rough time with Kwara before Abdul Razak says Ubek. That means that the governor, Abdul Razak, made things easy for Ubek in Kwara State. You want to find more of that in the inside pages of The Nation. And we have this one, we picked it the first time when Buhari was commiserating with the family, and it goes, Mabo Gunje dies at 90. Professor Mabo Gunje dies at 90. Details of that you find on page 6 of the newspaper. And right below that we have Lalong leads APC's Presidential Campaign Council. Lalong leads APC's Presidential Campaign Council. That story you'll find in the inside pages of The Nation, beginning on page 28. And we have Keyamo named interim spokesman, Musawa deputy. Keyamo named interim spokesman, Musawa as deputy. And then you have a picture story of the presidential candidate of the APC, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, with presenting his visiting the president and introducing his campaign DG and others. Of course, the party's chairman, Adamu, is also with them. Well, we'll go right under below that, and we have 2023. PDP can win without Wike article tells party BOT. Serious times there. 2023, PDP can win without Wike article tells parties BOT. We don't understand what is happening here. Is the slant of The Nation? Because in the other paper we say he reached out. We read that he reached out to Wike and all that. Well, we have a rider here. Buhari lost Rivers yet won 2015-2019. Runner-up raises posers at meeting with candidate. Runner-up raises posers at meeting with candidate. Of course, we want to read these and other angles from beginning from page 4 of the newspaper, and we go right below that. So, federal government, Google partner to block subversive YouTube channels. Federal government, Google partner to block subversive YouTube channels. That's an angle that The Nation has taken. You see that report beginning on page 4 of The Nation, and right beside that we have petrol importation. Petrol importation, we can't compete with NNPC, says Ipman. Petrol importation, we can't compete with NNPC, says Ipman. And you have details of that report also on page 4. The page was quite loaded, and other details details in other pages. You find on other pages, and then we have JAMB's mop-up exam holds tomorrow. JAMB's mop-up exam holds tomorrow. You may want to tell your children about this. And we have killer of Akwa Ibom job seeker to die. Killer of Akwa Ibom job seeker to die. Details of that you'll find beginning from page 5 of The Nation as we move over to Daily Trust this morning. Daily Trust. Again, we continue the countdown on the captive children, school children in captivity. School children in captivity, Bethel Baptist High School, Kujama. School children in captivity, Bethel Baptist High School, Kujama. It is 397 days today. 397 days today that the children have been in captivity. And then right below that we have Lalong unveiled as APC presidential campaign DG. Lalong unveiled as APC presidential campaign DG. They find details of that on page 25 of the newspaper. And we have Atiku, Wike meet, agree to resolve differences. Atiku, Wike meet, agree to resolve differences. This is yet another angle to the story, so it's up to you what you make of it as you pick up a copy of Daily Trust. And we have 8 years after raising 20 million for Safe School Initiative, FG unveils new plan. 8 years after raising $20 million for Safe School Initiative, FG unveils new plan. 8 years after raising $20 million for Safe School Initiative, FG unveils new plan. You find details of that on page 22 of the newspaper. And we have right below that a strong headline: Oshimbajo to military account for security expenditure. Oshimbajo, that is Professor Yemi Oshimbajo, Vice President of the country, is telling the military to account for the security expenditure. And then there are riders there, says security operatives must be ahead of criminals. Canvasses increase in local production of arms. I would say yes, yes, yes to that. And non-transparent military spending can create war economy. non-transparent military spending can create war economy, says an expert. And then right below that, you have details and some graphic details of defense budget allocation between 2015 and 2019. That is during under the presidency of Muhammadu Buhari. You can look at all the details there and see that every year it has increased from 988 billion in 2015 to 722.53 billion naira in 2021. Strong details there, very strong details. And we're also seeing something in the range of 1.96 trillion. You want to look at that and see what it means. But okay, 1.96 trillion as a main budget, and then there is a supplementary budget of 722.53 billion in addition to the 1.96 trillion in 2021. Okay, no wonder the vice president is asking them to account, because they had already been allocated 1.96 trillion naira, and then there's an additional 722.53 billion in addition to that. That swells to something like 2.6 trillion naira if you add them together. That's a huge budget for a country in economic distress. The vice president said they should account for it. Well, we move down to just below that story, and we have speculators count losses as naira gains 70 to $1 in 3 days. Speculators count losses as naira gains 70 naira to $1 in 3 days. I mean, there's those people that were projecting, speculators that were projecting that the naira were going to go on a southward ride. We are shocked that in 3 days it has recovered by 70 naira to $1. It's a big one for us, because some people were already saying that at the rate the naira was going, we'll hit 1,000 naira before December. We just pray it doesn't come to that, because things are quite expensive out there. And we have below that one, we have son kills dad for marrying second wife in Suleja. Whoa. Ha. Son kills dad for marrying second wife in Suleja. That's on page 17 of the newspaper. We have ASU strike. Kaduna University insists on resumption. Lecturers adamant. ASU strike. Kaduna University insists on resumption. Lecturers adamant. And we have FG to Google deny IPOB access to your platform. FG to Google deny IPOB access to your platform. Well, we go over to the Daily Sun. Daily Sun this morning, 5th of August 2022. Remember, you can reach us on phone 0901 748 4980, and it's Daily Sun. And we look at Ekweremadu remains in custody as UK court adjourns a hearing till October 31. Ekweremadu remains in custody as UK court adjourns hearing until October 31. And right below the masthead, we have ex-Inspector General of Police Tafa Balogun, 74, dead. Ex-Inspector General of Police Tafa Balogun, 74, dead. That story is on page 7, and on behalf of One Network, Port Harcourt Center, and entire One Network team in the country, we commiserate with Tafa Balogun's family and wish them God's comfort. Right under that, we have 2023 general elections. NSA INEC chair defer on polls. 2023 general elections. NSA INEC chair defer on polls. And there's a rider there, no going back, says Moguno. Insecurity, big threat, Yakubi cries out. No going back, says Monguno, and insecurity, big threat, Yakubi cries out. You find details of this and related reports on page 6 of Daily Sun this morning. And picture story of an award that was held in Lagos. We have the governor there, and you have FRSC representatives and so on. You find details of that. As we move over to the headline right below this picture stories, and we have PDP Atiku, Wike meet, agree on modalities for reconciliation. PDP, Wike meet, agree on modalities for reconciliation. Melaye Buala named campaign spokesman. Melaye Buala named campaign spokesman for the PDP. And we have Don't Stifle Press Freedom. Sanwo-Olu tells political leaders. Don't stifle press freedom. Sanwo-Olu tells political leaders. And right below that you have the NGA, that's Nigerian Guild of Editors, vow to resist intimidation, blackmail. The Nigerian Guild of Editors vows to resist intimidation, blackmail. That is on page 27 of Daily Sun this morning. And we have right below that, shake up as NAF appoints new branch chiefs, AOCs, others. NAF shake up as the Nigerian Air Force appoints new branch chiefs, AOCs, and others. You find details of that on page 4 of the newspaper. And we have Sanusi hits Buhari hard, says Nigeria in deeper mess than in 2015. That's former CBN governor, former AMA of Kano. Sanusi hits Buhari hard, says Nigeria in deeper mess than 2015. Details of this hard one on Buhari you'll find on page 28 of Daily Sun. And then we come to the very last one we're taking for today. APC names Lalong Keyamo presidential campaign DG spokesman. APC names Lalong Keyamo presidential campaign DG spokesman. That's the much we're going to have on newspaper review. We'll come back to you next week, Monday, and want to intimate you again that you can now reach us on telephone by calling on 0901 748 4980, 0901 748 4980. And if you're calling from outside Nigeria, it will be plus 234 901 748 4980, plus 234 901 748 4980. That's the much we're going to take on newspaper review today, and it will come your way again next week with Today in History and newspaper review. Do have a wonderful time and enjoy your Friday. Thank you.
Where the love they go? Baby, I love you so. I cannot let you go. Girl, you are killing me so. Making me feel like I'm whole. Girl, I'm loving you every day. So bless you, love. Bless you, love. Something, love. I love you, baby. I will never leave you, baby. You turn me on, baby, you bad, baby, you bad, you turn me on, baby, you bad. Luciano Records, baby.
Welcome to another fantastic episode of the program Expose on One TV Network. I am Florida. On today's series, we'll talk about the challenge of the power sector in Nigeria. Of course, we know that the Nigerian sector has a different sector. We have the agricultural sector, we have the educational sector, of course, we have the economy, we have the foreign exchange. But our focus today is the power sector. Nigeria is the giant of Africa. The entity Nigeria isn't just called the giant of Africa for numbers' sake. No. Not for just the population size. Not exactly. Nigeria is called the giant of Africa because of the depth of natural resources she possesses, the abundant solid minerals above all. Is the giant of Africa because it's the African biggest oil producer. I'm sure this actually caused some spine. With all of these God-given wealth, the West African still struggles to meet its energy needs, a struggle that has persisted for many decades. For decades, authorities have unsuccessfully struggled to keep the power sector with at least a steady supply. Government continues to come up with a policy to ensure the sector succeeds. Still, the massive public outcry over the inefficiency of the power sector to provide electricity to Nigerians still persists since it was privatized in November 2013. With a distribution and generation subsectors split and sold to private owners. One of the aims of the split was to enhance the power distribution in the country, as only the transmission component through the Transmission Company of Nigeria (TCN) remains a public property. With the privatization in 2013, one would expect an upward review and, of course, a positive outcome of the sector. But the reverse has been the case since the privatization of the sector in 2013. Fast forward to 2022, nothing has significantly changed, talking about effectiveness and efficiency of energy supply in Nigeria. The question is why? Your answer is as good as mine. Now, recently, authorities in the country said they disbursed over $3.2 billion to support power supply to Nigerians in the last 5 years. Godwin Emefiele, who is the head of the country's Apex Bank, talking about the Central Bank of Nigeria, actually disclosed this in a forum. He said, I quote, "The monies were disbursed to electricity generating and distribution companies to acquire equipment, buy meters, and improve electricity supply in the country." Yet, Nigerians have continued to battle poor power supply, with situation worsening in the last week when the country's power grid collapsed twice, causing huge blackouts across most parts of the country. It was early February 2022, Nigerians received shocking news from a radio station operating a 24-hour radio station in Lagos temporarily went off air quite a sad one, announcing moments before it could not sustain operations into night. Several other businesses were impacted, but this is not the first time the power grid collapsed in the nation. Over 200 million people residents. According to the cable, there were power grid collapses in February, May, July, and August of 2021, and between 2010 to 2019, there have been about 206 power collapses. If you did further to 2022, Nigeria may have experienced about 300 collapses. Quite shocking, you agree with me. Although Nigeria has been generating electricity in commercial quantity for over a century, the pace of electricity infrastructure development in the country is still a very slow pace, and power supply remains highly inadequate. In 2013 precisely, two segments of the Nigerian power sector were tampered with. One thought that with the privatization in 2013, the two components of the power sector, transmission and distribution, would have experienced a drastic change, talking about efficiency of the power sector. But it wasn't so. Is it affordability? It was not so. Reliability? It was the negative review. Presently, 76 million Nigerians, or 40%, if you agree, of Nigerians' population, more than twice of the population of Canada, are not connected to the national power grid. For those connected, power supply is a serious problem, as about approximately 90% of the total power demanded is not supplied. Are there underlying problems? Of course, yes, there are problems. Are there numerous underlying challenges? There are. Are those problems surmountable? Of course, yes, they are. If there's willpower, if there's focus, if the amount disbursed into the sector is judiciously used. Now, here are the issues. Presently, total installed generation capacity is about 12,522 megawatts. But average operational generation capacity is just 3,879 megawatts, of which 7.4% is lost into transmission, and up to 27.7% load is rejected at the distribution level. This leveraged Nigeria were not just about 2,519 megawatts. Yet, Nigerian electricity demand is estimated at 24,380 megawatts. As a result, Nigerians self-generated a significant portion of the electricity with highly polluting off-grid alternatives, and at a cost that is more than twice the cost of grid-based power. Slow rise from the recent recession occasioned by COVID-19, with projected gross domestic product rates trending between 4.50% and 7%. The above data complements the study by GES, which estimated electricity demand to rise by 45,490 megawatts in 2020 and a projection by 213,122 megawatts by 2040. Although the result of electricity demand studies varies widely, they conclude that the current gap between supply and demand is already very substantial and that it will become more entrenched under a business as usual scenario going by the end of 2022. Some of the key challenges in the Nigerian energy sector include: 1. Infrastructure cross-stream. That's why we call this program Expose. So we could bring to your mind what you need to know. And part of which is why the electricity sector has greatly experienced a downsizing or downs cascading. Currency devaluation, unexpected infrastructure constraints that have not been accompanied by timely adjustment to tariff. We keep having the tariff system on increasing note on 3 months basis. Every 3 months the tariff system is being reviewed. Of course, upward review, not a downward review this time around. With this review on, there are no changes, no significant changes in the electricity sector. Consumers are meant to pay high for what they don't see. Inability to reduce aggregate technical, commercial, and collection ATC and C losses. The design of the power sector reform makes the viability of the distribution company DISCOs critical to long-term sustainability of the sector. However, DISCOs are unable to recover cash shortfall on account of lack of investment in the network, rehabilitation, and metering, partly due to low tariff and inability to obtain loans from Nigerian banks due to unpaid debt. Which bank will give the sector loan? A quick review into one of the national dailies published in 2020 reveals that neighboring countries, precisely Togo, Niger, Benin Republic, did not pay their 32.4 billion naira bills for the electricity Nigeria supplied to them in 2019. Look at the figure again: 32.4 billion naira. Neighboring country Niger, Togo, Benin Republic are owing Nigeria 32.4 billion naira for electricity supply. 2019, and this is 2020. Nothing has been paid. The Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission next said, according to data collated from the NCR, the 3 countries received a total invoice of 32.4 billion naira for the electricity supply to them in 2019. The commission had earlier said the trio owed Nigeria 29.97 billion through its electricity transmission company. Inconsistent enforcement of rules and policies of the aforementioned, while multilateral initiative of the World Bank and Power Africa as well as Nigerian government and private sector are making efforts to address the key challenges in the Nigerian electricity supply industry. The efforts are slow paced and insufficient. For instance, the government has inaugurated several projects aimed at expanding thermal and hydro sources as well as extended to intervention facility to GENSCO and DISCO to ease their financial constraint. But what is the result? And most importantly, if the sector must be efficient and proficient, we must cut down on waste. Power waste. Power waste. This has to do with Nigerian culture, Nigerian attitudes towards power waste must be looked into. The culture of keeping electrical appliances on when not in use is another real terms that must be stopped. An attitude that must be looked into urgently. And it begins from the shipping process, from the borderlines. Equipment that consume high voltage, that need high power, should not be shipped into the countries. Authorities should look into these aspects. It is very important. We are in a jet age. There is need for power to be consumed, power to be minimized. And this should begin by machines, equipment, appliances that consume high voltage should be dumped. Like someone had said earlier, Nigeria is not like a dump site for machines, equipment not being used outside the shores of the country. They now see Nigeria as a place where they dump these machines. Worst of all, even when these equipment are not in use, they are being put on. Power wastage must be looked into. This is not the effort of the government. This requires your efforts. You watching. It is your efforts that will cut power wastage. It's not the effort of the government. It's not the effort of the distribution company or the transmission company or the generating company. No, it is your effort as the consumer. Avoid waste. And that includes power. Expose is meant to expose you to things you should know, but is being concealed from you. I'm sure you know this today. So when we talk about power generation in Nigeria, it's a collective effort. Everybody has a role to play. That includes you. We're hoping to see the needed change we need in our society. And many thanks for watching. I am Flora Duke. This is Exposing 1TV Network. Bye for now. But before then, like, share, and comment. We want to hear from you. Click on the like button, click on the share button, and drop your comments at the comment button. Thanks for watching Expose on the 1TV Network. Bye for now. And welcome to another fantastic episode of the program Expose on 1TV Network. I am Flora Duke. On today's series, we'll talk about the challenge of the power sector in Nigeria. Of course, we know that the Nigerian sector has a different sector. We have the agricultural sector, we have the educational sector, of course, we have the economy, we have the foreign exchange. But our focus today is the power sector. Nigeria is the giant of Africa. The entity, Nigeria, isn't just called the giant of Africa for numbers' sake. No. Not for just the population size. Not exactly. Nigeria is called the giant of Africa because of the depth of natural resources she possesses, their broad and solid minerals. Above all, is the giant of Africa because it's the African biggest oil producer. I'm sure this actually caused some spine. With all of these God-given wealth, the West African still struggles to meet its energy needs, a struggle that has persisted for many decades. For decades, authorities have unsuccessfully struggled to keep the power sector with at least a steady supply. Governments continue to come up with a policy to ensure the sector succeed. Still, the massive public outcry over the inefficiency of the power sector to provide electricity to Nigerians still persists since it was privatized in November 2013, with a distribution and generation subsectors split and sold to private owners. One of the aims of the split was to enhance power distribution in the country, as only the transmission component through the Transmission Company of Nigeria (TCN) remains a public property. With the privatization in 2013, one would expect an upward review and, of course, a positive outcome of the sector. But the reverse has been the case since the privatization of the sector in 2013. Fast forward to 2022, nothing has significantly changed. Talking about effectiveness and efficiency of energy supply in Nigeria. The question is why? Your answer is as good as mine. Now, recently, authorities in the country said they disbursed over $3.2 billion to support power supply to Nigerians in the last 5 years. Godwin Emefiele, who is the head of the country's Apex Bank, talking about the Central Bank of Nigeria, actually discussed this in a forum. He said, I quote, "The monies were disbursed to electricity generating and distribution companies to acquire equipment, buy meters, and improve electricity supply in the country. Yet, Nigerians have continued to battle poor power supply, with situation worsening in the last week when the country's power grid collapsed twice, causing huge blackouts across most parts of the country. It was early February 2022, Nigerians received shocking news from a radio station operating a 24-hour radio station in Lagos temporarily went off air quite a sad one. Announcing moments before it could not sustain operations into night. Several other businesses were impacted, but this is not the first time the power grid collapsed in the nation. Over 200 million people residents. According to the cable, there were power grid collapses in February, May, July, and August of 2021, and between 2010 and 2019, there have been about 206 power collapses. That to 2022, Nigeria may have experienced about 300 black in commercial quantity for over a century. The pace of electricity infrastructure development in the country is still a very slow pace, and power supply remain highly inadequate. In 2030, the two components of the power, but approximately 90% of the total power demanded, is not supplied. Are there underlying problems? Of course, yes, there are problems. Are there numerous underlying challenges? There are. Are those problems surmountable? Of course, yes, there are. If there's willpower, if there's focus, if the amount disbursed into the sector is judiciously used. Now, here are the issues. Presently, total installed generation capacity is about 12,522 megawatts. But the average operational generation capacity is just 3,879 megawatts, of which set at the distribution level. This leveraged Nigeria were not just about two, at 24,380 megawatts. As a result, Nigerians self-generated is and at a core from the recent recession occasioned by COVID-19, with projected gross domestic product rates trending between 4.50% and 7%. The above data complements the study by GES, which estimated electricity demand to rise. They conclude that the current gap between supply and demand is already very substantial and that it will become more entrenched under a business as usual scenario going by the end of 2022. Some of the key challenges in the Nigerian energy sector include: 1. Infrastructure cross-stream. That's why we call this program Expose, so we could bring to your mind what you need to know. And part of which is why the electricity sector has greatly experienced a downside, downs cascading. Currency Hello and welcome. This is Expose on the 1TV network. I am Flora Duke. On the show today, we expose you to Russia and Ukraine war versus inflation rate currently affecting most countries in the world. We shall streamline it to Nigeria economy. We begin with the definition of inflation as regards economy. It may be one of the most familiar words in economies. Inflation has plunged countries into a long period of instability. Central bankers often aspire to be known as inflation hawks. Politicians have won elections with promises to combat inflation, only to lose power after failing to do so. Inflation was even declared public enemy number one in the United States by equal President Gerald Ford in 1974. What then is inflation? Why is it so important as regards today's series of Expose? We'll move on. Inflation is a rate of increase in prices over a given period of time. Inflation is typically a broad measure, such as the overall increase in prices and the increase in the cost of living in a country. But it can also be more narrowly calculated for certain goods such as food, or for services such as airports, for example. Whatever the context, inflation represents how much expensive the relevant set of goods and services has become over a certain period, most commonly a year. Putting aside the very real human cost, war has also caused serious economic damage to infrastructure, a decline in the working